Spoilers ahead for like everything.
There we go.
Like at the back of my head, I'm thinking, hey, if people like it, maybe they want to be interviewed by Girth next, you know?
Garth Brooks has a lot going for him. What he lacks in clothes,
Oh,
he makes up for in style. So, yeah, I'm good now. Whenever you want to start, I've already hit record, so I've got the Garth Brooks comment in there.
okay, cool. Right. So,
I'll throw it
hey,
in at the end.
everyone. Okay, yeah. So, hey, everyone. So, unlike the usual intros where Sin does the intros, the one doing the intro for this one is also Sin, I guess. I mean, I'm still in the FC, right?
Yeah, you're still in the
Okay,
FC. I, I
okay.
haven't thrown you out, no.
Okay. So I'm the absentee Sin in there somewhere. Um, and since Sin has been doing the interviews,
This isn't confusing
I
at all for
right, no,
anybody.
not at all. Let me put it this way: like, the Russian that did this interview got deported.
Yes. Went back home to home country.
Yeah,
Very sad.
yes, he got drafted. So R.I.P. Anyway, I offered that Sin or Sinestral should get a proper interview, and that's how this got set up. I'm inactive in the game, so that's why I'm talking as Girth.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm looking right at you right now. Like, I mean, this
Girth
is
has an
this is
active sub.
exactly you. Uh, this is how you dressed and everything. So
That fits. That fits. I'm sure.
yeah.
Um, okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about the man of the hour. Let's hit you with an easy one. So tell us about your gaming background, like games before you started playing FF14,
Uh,
genres you like, you don't like, that sort of thing.
okay. I mean, I got started gaming probably back when I was maybe 4 years old. My cousin had a NES, and we would go to my aunt and uncle's house to visit occasionally, and their place was super boring. So whenever I was over there, I would go into the basement where my cousin had all his video games, and I'd go down there and play like Mike Tyson's Punch Out and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. All right. Go ahead. Go on. Go.
What were you gonna say?
No, I did Punch Out, man. You're giving me
Yeah.
flashbacks. I played that. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great collection. He had Mike Tyson's Punch Out. He had Contra and Super C, and I played those a lot.
Mm.
He had like the Mario Brothers version that had Duck Hunt and like World Championship or whatever that running one track and field was.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got my first experience playing those, and then when I was 5, my parents bought me a Super Nintendo. I actually owned a Super NES before an NES, and
Nice.
it came with like Mario World and Mario Kart and stuff like that. And I basically, eventually, once I got around to playing different games, I settled heavily into RPGs, and I did settle on the Final Fantasy series pretty early on. I played a lot of number 2 at the time, what it was called, which is actually number 4 and number 6. I owned number 6, and I just constantly rented number 2. I probably rented number 2 enough to own it twice over, but this is before internet days, so it wasn't being sold around
Oh,
here.
right. Yeah. No. I know the Japanese and the English numberings of the original FFs were like confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was called 2 and 3 were the ones I was playing then, but it's actually 4 and 6. And
Right.
I owned 6 because my cousin actually gave it to me for like a birthday present one year, and it was actually his copy. And I never actually got to own 4 because I couldn't find anywhere around that actually sold it. So I just rented it from our local video store called Classic Video constantly. I
Mm-hmm.
probably rented that thing like 30 times, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really into it. But yeah, that's mostly it. I did a lot of RPGs and side scrollers and strategy games. Like I owned a game called Conflict on the NES that I got really into that I don't think anybody else has ever played in their life.
Okay.
It was basically Advance Wars before Advance Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That I know. That one I know.
yeah.
Um, And did you play like FF7, 8, 9, like
Oh
the
yeah.
PlayStation ones? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a little bit late to get into PlayStation because I had, like I said, I had a Super Nintendo and then they bought me an NES later and I got like Final Fantasy 1 and Dragon Quest and all that stuff. And so when the next console generation came out, I stuck with Nintendo. I went with the Nintendo 64, thinking that like, oh, my favorite franchise, Final Fantasy, is going to keep being on Nintendo. And then they weren't.
Oops. Wah, wah.
Right, yeah. So, it's not like it was a super disappointing purchase. I got to play like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and, the Mario Party games and some other ones people probably haven't heard of, like Hybrid Heaven and stuff like that.
Right.
But my favorite Christmas in like memory is, I think it was like 99 or 98 or something like that. I can't remember what the year it was, but I got PlayStation 1, and at the same time, I got Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. Like, at the
Oh,
same Christmas.
wow.
Yeah.
That's like your what? Then so you got it Christmas. Did it means like you were like locked in for like the next 6 months? Is that what?
Yeah, basically. I went home that night. So the bad part is that they bought the PlayStation and they bought like the games, but they didn't buy a memory card. They didn't know it
Oh,
needed a memory card. So I was spending like the next couple of days just like swapping between games, getting like a feel for what they were like. And then we had to go
mhm,
buy a memory card, and then I played the shit ton of 7, and then played a pretty good amount of 9, and then I tried 8 and didn't understand it, and then went back to it later.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was a really good Christmas.
Yeah, no, no, I believe it.
Yeah,
Sounded like a really good Christmas.
yeah.
Okay, and then when did you start playing 14?
Uh, I've been playing 14 for like 10 years now.
Hmm.
I started around 2014, I think, like the beginning of 2014 or so.
So
Um,
this is
hmm.
uh after ARR when it was ARR, right?
It was ARR, yeah. I didn't play
Yeah, okay,
1.0.
okay. Right.
I had this mindset for a really long time that I refused to play games that required an active subscription. Like I didn't want to pay
Mm-hmm.
monthly for something.
Mm-hmm.
So when I heard the Final Fantasy 14 was going to be an MMO, I was just like, well, I'm not going to play that one. And then it came out and initially had awful reviews, and I'm just like, oh, see, I was vindicated. Like I made the
Right.
right decision. But at the same time, it was really hard for me because before 14, we had the 13 series, and they had like 3 games in that series, and that was like the only
Yeah.
Final Fantasy we got for like 10 years. And it was like Final Fantasy 13, 13 2, 13 Lightning Returns. I didn't
Right.
like the 13 series.
Not a lot of people did.
Yeah, so I was really itching for a Final Fantasy, and I was just going to wait for Final Fantasy 15, and it kept getting delayed.
Right.
And then
I remember that.
they did the Realm Reborn thing, and I was so desperate for a new Final Fantasy. I'd played all my old ones like over and over again. I was like, whatever. I have disposable income. I'll get a sub for the game, see what it's like. And honestly, I played it for a bit. I played it by myself, and I got through Realm Reborn, and then I got burnt out. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I got to the beginning of Heaven's Ward, and I kind of dropped the game. I would log in maybe once a week. I would stand around in Limsa on Lamia and play music as a bard, and then I would log out, and then that'd be my
But you
experience.
didn't you did not end your sub. You were just logging in for very short periods.
There was a short period where I didn't have a sub, and I think it was maybe
Mhm.
like 3 or 4 months or something. But then I just
Okay.
subbed again. But yeah, I mean, that short period of time when I didn't have a sub, when I resubbed and logged back in, I inherited my old FC on Lamia. It was
Oh.
Yeah, they only had like 20 people in there, and they just randomly invited me one day, and I didn't talk to any of them like ever. And so when I took my 3 or 4 month break and logged back in, they had been gone for so long that ownership just immediately passed to me because I was the next person logged in. And that meant that I was, like level 50 or whatever, and suddenly I had access to the company chest with all the FC money, and they had like 9 million gil saved up,
Nice.
which for someone that had like 200,000 at the time was a lot of money. So I bought a house over there, and I made it an FC house because I heard about workshops and stuff, and didn't
Right.
realize that you couldn't transfer that to private ownership if you decided to disband the FC.
Uh-huh.
So I kept the FC going to keep my house, but I never invited anybody else.
That's how it is.
Yeah,
That's how that works.
yeah.
Okay. So you actually touched on one of my questions for later on. Okay, so we'll get to that. Um, is it Sinestro or is it Sinestro?
Sinestral.
Sinestro. Okay, that's what I thought.
Mhm.
What's the story behind the name?
So Sinestral was something I came up with. I'm bad at names. So,
Mhm.
so what I did was I took from existing things. I played Terra shortly before I got into this game, and they had a dungeon called Sinestral Manor, but it was spelled Sin. And all I
Mhm.
did was change that from Sinestral to doing with a Y and two N's. And then the last name, Volitarius, I had played Demon Souls a little bit, and the world is
Right.
called Boletaria. And so
Oh,
I changed it
okay.
up a little bit, yeah.
All right.
Um,
Okay.
and I said this in one of the other interviews, but I didn't find out until later that
Mhm.
Sinestral is actually the name of a villain from the Lufia series of video
Oh,
games.
I did not know that.
And there is a Sin, like Synn, that's
Mhm.
the main antagonist of one of the D&D arcade games.
Oh,
And she just happens to have blonde hair,
okay.
like my character. So,
Okay.
yeah, it all just worked out randomly.
Right. No, yeah. Okay. I kind of always wondered, so I thought, and personally, I like in-game names kind of have an interesting backstory if they're not memeing on anything, just or making jokes out of an in-game name. So I
Right.
always wondered
Yeah.
what the story is behind anyone's in-game name.
Yeah, some of them
Okay.
are kind of obvious, like Poid Kunderthunt or, safe sex,
Right. Exactly. Right. Right. Yep. Okay. So you mentioned Terra. Did you play any other MMOs?
um, yeah, so the thing with me is that I've tried several different MMOs and none of them really stuck before this one.
Hmm.
I played RuneScape. That was my first MMO ever. That was just because it would actually work on the PCs at like school. So
Right.
so instead of doing work, I could just like load up a browser and play fucking RuneScape all day.
Yep.
Um, which
Yep.
because I got super bored at school, I was always a straight A student, and like what they were teaching was really boring to me, and so I would just
Right.
zone out and play on the computer.
Okay.
But I played that not because it was fun and I had a great time, but because it worked on everything, and it worked at home on my home computer with my shitty dial-up connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After that, when I finally upgraded from dial-up to the very low-speed DSL, I got Guild Wars 1, and
Oh,
I played
okay.
that for a while. And that's actually a really good game, but it still didn't like grab me. I played it for about a
Right.
year, kind of casually. And I tried to go back to it recently, actually, because the servers are still up and my account still exists. And nowadays, it's not something that I enjoy at all. But back in the day, it seemed pretty cool.
Right.
And then I tried Terra, and Terra honestly had my favorite combat system, but everything else about it was bad. So
Okay.
it had a story. I don't know what the story was. Couldn't tell you to this day what they were trying to go for.
Right.
The UI was bad. Uh, it had the whole like free login reward pop up shit that would be in the way all the time.
Mhm.
Same thing with Black Desert Online. I tried that. It had the same issue. It turns out I really like MMO combat when it's action based, but nobody makes a good one like as a full game. They get the combat
Mhm.
down and then everything else sucks. So
Right. Yeah. 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 No, agreed.
so this is the first and only MMO that's actually captured my attention for years, and to this day, honestly, I feel like if they switched the whole combat up to action MMO base and just kept the story and everything else the same, It'd be
Mhm.
like the MMO to end all MMOs. So
Right. No, WoW. I didn't hear you mention WoW.
nope, never played WoW.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-mm. Again, it had a sub, and this is the only game I ever decided to get a sub for.
To actually pay a sub for. All
Yep.
right.
Guild Wars, you could just buy the game and then you could play it forever for free.
Forever. Yeah, they're still making. I think they just announced an expansion for Guild Wars 2, like another one.
Yep.
That's still going. All right.
Yep.
And then, so would it be fair to say that what drew you to 14 is because you're essentially an fanboy?
Yeah, that's exactly
Mm.
why.
Okay.
I didn't do it for the MMO aspect. In fact, that was a negative for it going forward, but I was just really
Mhm.
desperate for a new feeling Final Fantasy before 15 dropped. And yeah, ends up I've
Right.
subbed for like 10 years. So
Okay. Yeah. It was one of my questions, like what drew you into FF, and as you're talking, it kind of answered itself. So
yeah,
anyway, what job did you start with when you first started playing?
Dragoon. So
Huh?
yeah,
So you're saying you were suicidal.
I was, yes. I just didn't know it at the time.
All right.
So I really like Dragoons and other Final Fantasy games. I always thought they were the coolest. Like I said before, FF4 was my favorite and the one that I played the most often.
Hmm.
And my favorite character in FF4 was Kane, and he was the Dragoon. So it made sense. And my first character name wasn't Sinestro Voltarius; it was Sinestro Highwind because that was Kane's last name.
Right.
And so I was going to be a Dragoon, and I didn't realize at the time that when I started playing Dragoon, they were still doing the thing where you had to level a second class to 15, depending on which job you wanted to unlock.
Hmm.
So I got 30 levels of Lancer, and then I was forced to play 15 levels of Marauder to do
Yes.
it.
I remember that system. Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I didn't enjoy the Marauder time nearly as much, but
Mm.
once I dropped that, it was fine. I probably wasn't the best Dragoon back in the day because to be really good, you had to cross level like different classes and unlock all these other skills that I didn't bother with.
Right.
So I just did the bare minimum to be a Dragoon, and then I kept going with that.
Okay. Oh, by the way, in case this interview gets banned, the suicide thing was just a joke. If you're actually feeling suicidal, please seek help. All
Yeah,
right.
no, no.
Okay.
Or play Dragoon.
All right. Um. And then Lamia was your first server, right? Was that a first server?
Yeah, that was my first server was Lamia.
How did you end up in Zalera?
Like I kind of touched on before, I got to a point where because I was playing by myself and I was also skipping cutscenes back
Mhm.
in the day, I didn't
You
really.
you heard it here first. Sin was the skipper.
I
Jeez.
did yeah, I did the bad. Um,
Okay.
I I definitely, well, my other MMO experiences taught me that like, oh, the story doesn't matter. Like all
Right.
MMO stories are the same; they always suck, right? So, and I didn't know anybody that played this, so nobody taught me any better. But when I was logging in to play my music in Lamia on Limsa,
Mhm.
so I met Rio over there, the person that originally made the FC here.
In Lamia.
Yeah, yeah, he had a
Okay. Okay.
character over there. And we met through playing the music, and I'd just play video game music, and this was back in the day before like bard bands were common or anything like that, and most of the time you just
Right.
saw like solo people, and they usually had the same songs, and I was playing different ones.
Were
So
you playing these manually? Because I know you can kind of like automate it now, right? Excuse me.
you can automate it through BMP, and no, I wasn't doing it manually, but I also wasn't using BMP. There was another thing that
Okay.
happened before that you could use,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it was a lot more finicky, and I had to learn to make my own midis to do it.
MIDIs? Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
it plays MIDI files
Mhm,
basically,
mhm.
and it there's only 3 octaves in the system, so if anything falls outside that octave, it would try to automatically adjust, and it would sound like shit.
Right.
So I had to fix it basically. But
You know. for something that you were doing on the side, it sounds like it's a lot of work.
It was like a hobby of mine, basically.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I got you.
Um, and it wasn't easy. No.
Hmm.
I'm still not that great at doing it. I know there's easier ways to do it, but
Right.
I know how I know, and you know. But I met him through that, and then he logged in one day while I was playing music, and he sat down and talked to me, and he was like, "Hey, I have this FC on this other server that I made called TeamNoSleep. You should come check it out sometime." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure." And
Hmm.
didn't think a whole lot about it, but I wrote it down. And he's like, "Hey, my name over there is like Rio Inji." And I'm like, "Okay." So later that night, sorry, I keep having to mute myself to clear my throat. My allergies are killing me.
Okay.
Um, Later that night, I made a new character on the Crystal on this server, and found like a I found a person that's no longer in the FC, just sort of sitting around by the market board in Gridania, and I applied to
Hmm.
the FC through them. And next day I was accepted, and so I just took that opportunity to sort of start the game over and actually pay attention to the story and stuff. And
Oh,
that is
okay.
what actually got me hooked on the game, was the second try, and that was about 4 years ago now.
And was that did you play as Dragoon as well when you started over?
Yep.
Hey.
I was very much a one note person, as far as what I wanted to try. I didn't want to try a tank or a healer class
Mhm.
because I was worried that was too much responsibility.
Uh,
Right,
right.
right. Um, yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna be a DPS, so I don't have to worry about anything ever. And
Right. But then you played Dragoon, so
right,
anyway, go ahead.
yeah. So I did that, and I did that all the way through to the end of Heaven's Ward, and then Stormblood. I picked up Samurai, and
Okay.
I ended up playing through Stormblood as Samurai, and then I just sort of stuck with that through the rest of the expansions, and now that's my main class.
Right. So okay. So that's how you ended up as your what I remember to be your favorite class.
Yeah.
Okay. Um who would you consider to be your OG crew? Are they still around?
In this FC or just in general, like,
In general, in the FC, no, it's up to you how you want to answer that one.
so it would have to be the people from this FC, honestly, because I didn't know anybody in my old FC, and
Right.
I didn't talk to them, and I spent that whole time on Lamia basically playing by myself or through
Hmm.
like Duty Finder.
Hmm.
This FC, I mean, obviously you've been around for a while,
Yeah.
like you're one of them, and then Shun, and then Tammy, and then from like the old days, I mean Rio and Asuna,
Hmm.
and then there was Squash or Squosh Draconius, who doesn't log in anymore.
Hmm.
There was Dot Mango, who that's the person I actually applied through,
Okay.
and she left a long time ago. There's Chade, who's
Right.
obviously still around occasionally. Riami, who is obviously still around.
Yes.
There's another one that I'm forgetting. Vivi Corleone has actually been around for a long time too.
Mm.
But yeah, those are the main people that I would consider, as far as like ones that have been around for a long time, from like what I consider the old days.
Right. Still quite a few people,
Decent
Now
amount,
that
yeah,
you, yeah, now that you've enumerated it like that, it's still quite a few people. That's nice.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
There's quite a few still here.
and so you weren't around when the FC was formed, right? Like when
No,
Team No Sleep was formed. How did you become officer? Do you remember?
so I joined when I joined Team No Sleep. We had around like 40 people, I think.
Okay.
They've been around for a bit. They were apparently on their second FC house, which was the medium in lavender beds.
Okay.
I don't remember where they said their first one was at anymore, but I started off just playing through the game by myself again, and then eventually I started hanging out with the other FC people. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention Sasaba. Sasaba's still around. That's one of the other
Okay,
original people. But
cool.
I would go into dungeons with like Rio and Asuna and Sasaba and Shade and all them and stuff, and do like duties through them. And it basically was just a matter of I was starting to log in like every day, and whenever someone would ask for help running through a dungeon, if I had it unlocked, I would help them. Or if they asked
Right.
for advice about something, then I would start like helping them. I got to the point where I started to branch out away from just Dragoon and doing like other roles and stuff too to be able to fill. And
So that's how that started.
yeah, that's how that
Okay.
started. I started doing it just
Helping
to be able to
other
fill in the blanks for people,
helping
basically.
other folks out. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, hold on. I gotta let my cat out here because
Sure.
he's being a little bitch. There we go. All right.
This interview is getting so banned. Anyway,
I have the edit magic. I can just
yeah,
edit things
you do,
out,
I guess.
but I won't if they're funny. So
Well, I think we've only made two possibly bannable mentions or words so far. So I mean, go ahead, whatever.
right. But yeah, I started to basically just fill in the blanks for people when they needed dungeon runs. So I made sure to have a healer and a tank that I'd be able to use. And
Mhm.
eventually Rio just messaged me one day. He's like, "Hey, you want to be an officer?" He's like, "You're always helping people. You just want to be an officer?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." Um, yeah,
The
that's how I got to be an
beginning of the
officer.
end. That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Um,
Um, See, that's not even half funny to you. You sounded so defeated. I'm sorry. Oh man. Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll
nah, it's
get to
all
that. Don't
good.
worry. That's part of it. That's part. Don't worry about it. That is part of this. That's on the list. Okay. So with that said, then what was your? Do you remember your first healer and your first tank?
Uh, I believe so.
Okay.
My first tank was actually Dark Knight. I
Gravitated towards the emo tank from the beginning.
well, yeah, well, because again, my favorite Final Fantasy is 4, and Cecil is the
Uh-huh.
Dark Knight, and
I see.
yeah, it might have been Paladin at the beginning if it wasn't for the fact that it started at level 1, and I felt like I would get a faster start at level 30 with the Dark Knight.
Right. Right.
I also
Right.
heard a lot of really good things about the story on Dark Knight, and by that point, I was really into the story of the game, and they were
Uh-huh.
right. So,
Yeah, no, even I could agree to that
yeah,
as a serial cutscene skipper myself.
yeah. And my first healer was Astrologian for kind of a
Mhm.
similar reason. It starts at level 30, which isn't too high of a level to be too intimidating, but not so low that I have to go through 30 levels of grinding. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Um, and what were the early days of the FC like compared to now?
Um, it was different. Um, it was still fairly active, honestly. For them to only have like 40 members, there'd still be like 12 or 13 people online at the time, most of the time.
Hmm.
The people that were in were playing basically every day, with a few exceptions. But
Right.
you would get used to seeing the same people at the same times a day. Um, but it was not like. So they would help you run like duty finder stuff, like if you needed it for MSQ or something like that. But
Right.
it wasn't as often like, hey, anybody want to do like roulettes or like, and there was absolutely no like branching out to savages or anything like that.
Mm.
Basically, it was just occasional roulettes and then helping people that would do like that need something for MSQ or in the case of like Dot and eventually me, crafting things for people. Because Dot
Right.
was our first multi crafter, like our first Omni crafter. That's what she used to do. She had all the crafters leveled up, and she also used to take care of the gardening at the FC house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Proto Riami. So, it's
But
like
yeah, basically, yeah. It's just
Right.
spent all day crafting and being at the market board to sell things.
Okay.
Yeah,
And are you last time I was playing, you were not married in game.
correct.
Is that still correct?
That's still correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone wanted to marry Saren in game,
Hmm.
how much gil would you ask for in return?
Someone's already married Saren in game.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ask for any gil?
No,
Why not?
because Bunny is poor.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh man. All right, fine, fine. Okay, so at this point, how many times have you gone through the MSQ?
um, honestly, fully all the way through Endwalker only
Uh-huh.
once.
Only once.
I've made it all
Okay.
the way through the end of Shadowbringers twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your high points? Like the story for the story,
Um.
like your
So
favorites and all that.
so high points. None of them happened in the Realm Reborn.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
Right.
High points, obviously, like the vault was the first really big, like, emotional impact moment for me.
Right. Of course.
After that, the end of the Dragon Song War was another big point.
Mhm.
Stormblood, actually, while most people will say that, like, Stormblood is kind of the weaker expansion, I actually like Stormblood a lot, and the main
Why?
reason I like it is because of Gosetsu. I like
Okay.
I like Gosetsu a lot, and that moment he has in Doma Castle, when the roof is collapsing on him and stuff, and he's saying his
Right.
goodbyes to Hien, like that part, and then post Stormblood with the Tsukiyomi stuff. I like that a lot too.
Right.
Then Shadowbringers, just basically all of Shadowbringers.
Uh-huh. I'm with you there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some points that are higher than others, but like all of Shadowbringers is just great. And Endwalker, um, the beginning is a little bit slow, and then when it really starts to sort of ramp up, um,
Mhm.
and it like starts things start going really wrong in the story. That's when
Yeah.
it really gets my attention then, and it hit a lot of high points. Going to Elpis was a big point. Obviously, like the ending is a big point, and then there's that one scene with the fucking Moonbreeda's parents with Urianger. That
Oh, yeah, that one's rough.
that one is so rough.
Jeez.
That moment and the walk before like the final dungeon and the final boss were
Right.
the two moments
The
that really
forced
got
walk.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Those are all my favorite moments, basically.
Nice. Any low points? Anything you kind of like the most tempted you are to skip?
Yeah. So it's a Realm Reborn, and
Hmm.
honestly, going back through it with a fresh pair of eyes, like and knowing what's coming after, a Realm Reborn isn't that bad as a whole, especially since they updated it.
Right.
But there's like this moment when you're beating a Realm Reborn and you've beaten La Habrea and there's a cutscene that's playing and like all your friends come out and like I don't know, they like charge at La Habrea, but it's all like a spiritual thing or something and they do the
Uh-huh.
stupid anime yell. Like I hate that. That's a cringy moment. And I wish that I could just skip that entirely. Like
All right.
it's like
Okay.
a
Okay.
really overdone anime trope that's really cringy, and I hate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer to that question.
Yeah,
I felt the hatred there.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so we'll go through the kind of same format here. So
Hmm.
favorite characters.
Um. So Harshifon's a great character as long as you actually take the time to talk to him in between quests and
Hmm.
stuff like that. If
Right.
you don't, I could
Is he
kind of
your
see.
number one? I kind of
Um.
have the impression he's your number one.
So it's hard to say, honestly. He might be my number one.
Hmm.
He's pretty high up there. Um.
Uh-huh.
I feel like if there is a different number one, it's probably Emmett Selk.
Okay. Okay.
Just because he has a lot of personality, and he also got a lot more voice cutscenes. That
You got
also
a lot of
helps.
screen time.
He got a lot of screen time. That helps a
A
lot.
lot of
Yeah,
screen time. Yeah.
I think
Do you visit Lord H's grave?
I do
Hmm.
occasionally, and the fact that
Okay.
they added one of those moments every time you go up to the grave, the fact that Francil will just
Will show
appear
up.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
say
yeah,
something. I was like,
yeah.
thanks,
Nice touch.
guys.
All right. Sorry, you were saying something before I interrupted you with the
Oh,
Lord H.
oh, right.
Yeah.
I think that for the people that like, because there are some people where like Harshaphant's death doesn't really hit them as hard, and I think that a big defining factor in that, at least for me, was that my second time through the game, I took a bunch of time extra to basically treat it like a regular Final Fantasy RPG and talk to the NPCs that I didn't have to talk to advance the quest.
Uh-huh.
And so between quests, I would go and talk to Harshaphant and the other NPCs around him, and that fleshed him out more as like a character and a person by doing that. And so I felt more than afterwards because I took the extra time to talk to him. If I just went based off of the scenes that he was involved in with the MSQ, it may not have
Uh-huh.
hit as hard.
Okay. So you were rewarded for taking the extra time.
Yeah,
Is that what the experience is like? Okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I started treating it like I would treat like Final Fantasy VI or something, and just go talk to the NPCs that weren't part of the quest line and see what they had to say, because they actually take a lot of effort and update their dialogue a lot in this game.
Right.
And a lot of people just miss it because it's not, it doesn't have an emblem above their head to talk to them. So,
Right. You don't have to do it, therefore they don't do it.
right.
Okay. Characters that you hate, that like if they were eviscerated in front of you, they you would pay for it.
Asahi.
All right.
The
All
fucking
right.
bowl cut motherfucker. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, you can hate him based on the haircut alone. Yes.
yeah, yeah, they did everything to make that guy as unlikable as possible, straight down to
Hmm.
the haircut. Like, everything about him was
Hmm.
terrible.
Right. Agreed. Like even the uniform that's always clean and white, like so he's
Right,
so pure. Yeah, I get you there. I
right. The
get it there.
stupid faces he makes, the threats that he makes towards you, like he could actually beat you up. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Uh,
I hate him.
you were quick to answer to
Yeah.
that. You didn't have to think about it.
Nope.
Um, do you have any favorite mounts aside from Sarah?
uh Honestly, yeah, the so when I did the game, like my second playthrough,
Right.
and I started taking the time to do all the extra stuff that I never did, like the extreme trials and things like that.
Hmm.
The first reward you get for doing all of the Realm Reborn extremes, the Kirin mount, I think
Right.
that's my favorite because I didn't know it existed. I somehow went through all these years without. I didn't really watch any Final
Oh,
Fantasy 14 videos or anything like that in my spare time in the old days. So I didn't know that was a thing. So I was collecting all the mounts, and then it's like, hey, you have an extra quest. And I'm like, huh? And so I got that, and then when I took off and it was playing the Final Fantasy music, like that was kind of an emotional moment for me. So that's my favorite mount.
nice.
Yeah,
An unexpected surprise.
yeah.
Do you have any mounts that you don't like?
Yeah, there's an ugly ass giraffe looking one that I have, the Dalmer or whatever, and it's
I
so
think I know
fucking
that one. Right.
goofy.
Right.
Yeah, it's the ugliest thing in existence.
Okay. Your favorite job is samurai, right?
Hmm.
Up to now. Okay. Do you have a favorite magic class?
Summoner, honestly, new
Summoner.
summoner. Um,
All right.
Old summoner would have been my answer before new summoner as well. Honestly,
Okay.
um, I like them both for different reasons. Old summoner, I liked it because there was a lot to do, but you felt like you were always doing something.
There
Um,
was a point to the movement to the action. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and plus it had the dot skill, but then it had the other skill to spread the dot to every enemy that was around,
Right.
and that just felt really nice to use.
Yeah.
Um, New summoner I like because it actually feels like a summoner for once.
Yes. Agreed.
Other summoner felt like it was fun to play, but it never felt like you were actually being a summoner.
Yeah.
So it's a trade off. It's mind numbing. Like the rotation is very mind numbing now. It's very simple, but it actually feels like you're summoning things. So it's a trade off.
Right. Okay. Um, crafting job. Do you have a favorite crafting job?
Carpenter, just because it was my first one that I leveled up, and I even had that leveled up on my old character because I thought at the time that carpenter would be the only class that would make housing and furnishings, and I thought that would be a fast way to make money, and I was wrong on both
Right.
counts. Uh,
Yes.
but the fact that like your teacher is called Master Beaton and he's working with hard woods and he just constantly makes dick jokes is just
Oh,
hilarious.
right.
He has like
Right.
quest lines and stuff where he talks about teaching children to appreciate his wood, and I'm just like, wait.
Yep, that's pretty much how it sounds like.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a crafting job that you hate?
Um, I think culinarian, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason being like I really like their class quests. Like they're kind of funny, they're interesting. I hate it because they take so many fucking ingredients.
Yes.
There's
Okay,
so
I get
many
you there.
ingredients. Like holy
I get
shit.
the hate there.
Like a one
Okay.
recipe and 6 ingredients, and you have to have like 5 of each. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Favorite dungeon or dungeon?
Ooh. Mmm. Tamtara Hard is my favorite dungeon.
Okay. I was not expecting that.
Right. I had to think about it for a second. So the big reason why, and it only really has the full effect the first time you're doing it. Do you
Uh,
remember anything about it?
is that the one with the you have to outrun the bombs or something?
No.
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 Okay, what is it?
So Tamtara Hard is when you unlock it, you're talking to this little Lalafell mage that he was part of this party that Edda and a couple of other people were part of back in your early beginning days.
Okay.
And their party falls apart because Edda's fiance gets decapitated in one of the dungeons, basically, and dies because she can't heal him in time because he's running too
Right.
far ahead. And this is level 50 quest, and so you're talking to this guy, and he's like, he's been invited to this wedding for Edda and Avir, which is the name of her fiance, but that doesn't make any sense because he's dead.
Oh, I think I remember. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So
Go.
so if you pay attention in the background of the cutscene, even in the opening cutscene, when he's like
Uh-huh.
talking to you, you can see Edda in the background in one cutscene, and when it pans to you, then it talks to him again, and it pans back around, and then it pans back to you again, and Edda's gone, and there's an
Right.
NPC in the background that freaks out because he just saw her disappear, and that's the beginning of the whole thing. And
Right.
you go through the dungeon, and if you actually take the time to read the notes, you go through and you see how insane she's become and how she's trying to resurrect him, and there's
Uh-huh.
all this
Uh-huh.
writing on the wall in Eorzean that says different things. It's all written in blood, and it's just a creepy dungeon. And then at the end, the cutscene, like where she basically comes out to haunt the guy and does
Yeah.
the creepy smile thing that was like the head is like the FC banner for a while. um, that's just it made a huge impression on me, and I wish that there were more dungeons that had that much backstory.
Right, right. I remember now. Yeah. Well, I remember bits and pieces of it, but yeah, that
Hmm.
yeah. Okay. That's a great answer to that question. Do you have a favorite? No, sorry. Do you have a dungeon you don't like?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's better now, but Copperbell Mines,
No.
the original, it's so
Yeah,
slow.
yeah,
Um, and nowadays, because it didn't really get an update and it doesn't really need one technically, but Sastasha, just the original, like normal
yeah.
one, they're so boring.
It's boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so boring.
Right.
That's the only
Do
reason.
you... No, I hear you. Do you have a favorite raid?
Um, yeah, basically, as far as just like normal raids go, if we're taking out the
Uh-huh.
savages,
Just
um,
normal. Yeah, I'm not that. Yeah, just normal.
And I forget which. I'll actually have to re-enable my HUD to remember the exact number on it. Let me see here.
Okay.
It is. It helps if I go to the right category. So I really like the scapes in Stormblood, like Delta, Sigma, Alpha Scape, and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
My
was kind of expecting that be your answer.
yeah. So my favorite normal one is probably AlphaScape 3.0, and
Mhm.
that's just because it has the starboard larboard thing, but it also has like the fists that come out that people have to use the duty action on, and if nobody knows what they're doing, it's hilarious.
Yes, agreed.
If they don't understand what starboard or larboard means and they keep
Oh
getting hit by the
God.
laser, it's great. If we were to include savages in that,
Mhm.
um I would say that my favorite is probably Delta Skate 4.0 with Neo X Death because
Oh, the
yeah,
intro.
yeah, the when it switches to phase 2,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
phase transition is so fucking cool.
The
And
first time, it's awesome.
yeah, I always try to tell people like if you're going to do this, like let us like run you through it and don't spoil yourself with a video because
Right.
seeing it in person is so much better than seeing it happen in the video.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Right. Agreed. Do you have a raid that you hate?
um yeah, so if we're talking about just like normal raids and not alliance raids,
Mhm.
I would say that there are a few turns in the Binding Coils of Bahamut that are just they feel like filler.
I know.
Yeah. um the ones where there's not like a boss fight and it's just you running through and then doing like mob fights the whole way.
Getting to the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Point A to
especially
point
like
B.
turn 3 is what I'm thinking
Uh-huh.
of. It, it's just a lot of running through, taking down mobs, and then like using jump pads and like
Right.
unlocking things by jumping through them, and it's super boring. But yeah, that'd probably be the worst.
Okay. What is your favorite expansion?
Shadowbringers. Yeah,
Shadowbringer.
yeah. It was neck and neck with it was neck and neck with Heaven's Ward at the end
Or
of the main Shadowbringers for me. The end of like 5.0. But
right.
the 5.3 patches when you had to fight the Warrior of Light like Elidibus, and then the cutscenes
Mhm.
and everything around that pushed it over the top for me, and it made it number one.
Okay. And then opposite of that would be what you don't like is probably Stormblood.
No,
Okay.
it's Realm Reborn.
With Roman board. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess. Right. Your answer. I know
yeah,
that. I know why.
yeah. If we're talking solely expansions and not the base game, then it would be Stormblood to be my least
Stormblood.
favorite, but I still like it. So
Okay. What is your favorite side content or activities that you like? Meaning not related to MSQ. You know,
uh
like yeah,
Eureka.
anything you can think of. Eureka. Okay.
Yep, Eureka. It was something that I got into randomly one day.
Hmm.
This is back when the FC still had a lot less members than it does now.
Right.
So nobody in the FC had really ever done Eureka, so nobody told me anything about it. And I went into it thinking that it was just going to be another raid series or something like that, and it turned out to be a whole instance area with its own leveling and everything. And
Right.
it's so different from the rest of the game that I really like it. Um, it felt more like kind of old school MMO, but it was like old school MMO that I could turn off and on. So if I got tired of it, I could go back to the base game. And, because it has like a level down system if you get killed and you have to respawn, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But I also just really like the environments. The environments are cool as hell. So it's like tornadoes and
Back when
shit and like reverse waterfalls that flow the wrong
uh,
direction. Like it's
yeah.
just cool.
Oh, back when I was playing the game, I would roll my eyes whenever you say that you enjoyed Eureka. Uh, I'm not playing the game. I'm still rolling my eyes. My reaction has not changed. But anyway,
I
okay.
I unironically like it more than the Bosnia stuff that they have.
Right. Yeah, that not liking Bowser, I can understand.
Yeah.
That I completely agree with. Um, Is there side content that you don't like? Like you did it just because you had to for something, but you don't want to repeat it.
Yeah, Bazia.
Okay, I'm with you there.
It was a faster Eureka, but it
Uh,
was very boring to look at, and
it's ugly.
it's super ugly. It's all
So
like
ugly.
brown, destroyed battlefield, which I get. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. You're supposed to feel like you're fighting a war, but at least at the time that I did it, and it might be different now because it's probably less popular now. It was just
Mhm.
constant running back and forth from like critical engagement to critical engagement with like no time in between.
Right.
Eureka, I actually kind of enjoyed the slower build up where you had to kill a certain amount of mobs to get a fate monster to spawn. Like, I kind of like that more. It
Okay.
gave me it gave me downtime basically.
Right. You didn't feel like you were being rushed to do
Right.
anything and miss out. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Do you have a favorite non-playable race?
Ooh, the race that you can't play as.
Yeah, like
Um,
the ones you had to do rep grinds for example. Yeah.
I I mean, I guess it would be Loporits, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I would ever run around as a Loporit, probably, because I like my
Right.
glamours, and none of my glamours would ever work on a tiny bunny body. But
Uh-huh.
I don't know. They're kind of fun, and doing their tribal quest and Endwalker and actually going through it all the way. Like, I really like the story that they're involved in. Honestly,
Okay.
like it's just cool.
Do you have a non-playable race that you don't like?
Yeah, the Nath or Vath or whatever you want to call them from Heaven's Ward, the little like flea people, basically.
Where are they again? I'm
They're
forgetting.
in Heaven's Ward. They're what fucking area are they in? Um,
Oh God, why am I forgetting?
yeah, I can't remember the name of the area either. But I actually did their tribal quests most of the way
Mhm.
through, and I just don't like them. I don't like their design. I don't like the way that they look. I don't like the way that they talk. Um, and
I think
actually,
that
hmm?
they look like bugs, right?
Yeah, they look like bugs.
Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah,
Right.
they almost all look like they're wearing a samurai hat of some sort with the way their head
Hmm.
is shaped. Um, if I had to choose like a second one
Right.
that I absolutely hate,
Uh-huh.
uh, damn it, I just had them. Where did they go? Uh, fucking, it's not the Ixel. Shit, just lost it.
Well, hopefully you remember this.
Oh, the goblins. I don't like the goblins.
Why not?
I hate the way they talk.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know. I get it. It's annoying. Yes. Yeah. Very
as
annoying.
as funny as it was to make like Gabby's personal rank like Gobby Gabby and make them talk in Gobby speak for a while and find that goblin dictionary, I
Uh-huh.
really hate trying to read through their dialogue.
Right.
Talking
Yeah.
about gobby
Yeah.
booms and all their stupid shit.
Yeah. No, no, right. It's kind of like baby talk, but in a
Right.
version of theirs, and it's annoying either way.
Right.
Right. Um, what are you looking forward to in Dawn Trail?
The graphic update, even though it's probably going to kill my card.
Mhm.
And then I'm excited to see what they do with the story. I have a little bit of trepidation because I feel like after the highs that were like Endwalker and Shadowbringers, that they have a lot to live up to, and since they're gonna have to set up a whole new story arc and stuff, I feel like
Mhm.
there's a very good chance that this next expansion could just be like the A Realm Reborn of story arc number two, where
Mhm.
it does a lot of setup, but it feels like not a lot happened or something.
Right. Not a lot of closure on anything, just a lot
Right.
of open ends. I mean, open
Right.
stuff that you would have
I'm
to wait. Yeah.
I'm worried it'll be a lot of back and forth talking to set up like big things in the future, but then not a lot will happen in the actual expansion.
Yeah.
I am excited to try Viper finally.
Okay.
I wasn't excited with the first job trailer, to be honest,
Mhm.
but the benchmark actually is what made me interested in actually trying out Viper. It actually looks a lot better in action in the benchmark than it did in their own job action trailer.
Good job, trailer. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll try Pictomancer 2 eventually, but it's not going to be my first choice because I'm much more of a melee DPS than anything else. So,
Oh, yeah. I think we got that
yeah.
with Dragoon and Samurai. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Well, so coming from, your previous from the previous Final Fantasies that you played, do you have a wish list class or job that you'd like to see in 14?
It's really hard because they put in a lot of the classes already, and we're starting to run out.
That's true.
Um, I would like to see some sort of Spellblade character, and
Hmm.
more so like less like how they do Paladin, where Paladin has like a spell casting or spell casting part of the rotation, because that just sort
Right.
of feels awkward. More like, fire is imbued into your sword, or lightning is imbued into your sword for this combo, or something like that.
Okay.
Something along those lines. I'd like something like that. Or I would really like a gambler class.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, like Setzer from Final Fantasy VI or something. Something that has like a slot effect, or like throwing coins and cards and darts and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. Something like that.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Mhm.
Do you have a raid or dungeon that you'd like to see from previous Final Fantasy? Kind of like I said, with escapes, right? That
Mhm.
as I was expecting you to answer that. Do you have something like that you'd like to see in 14?
Um, they've with this most recent patch stuff, they actually added a bunch of my favorites, because a lot of the Endwalker patch content has to do with Final Fantasy IV bosses and
Hmm.
storylines.
Hmm.
Um, Outside of that, they honestly haven't touched on hardly anything from seven. Um,
That's right.
they also haven't touched a lot on. Well, they've touched a little bit on eight with like the Eden stuff, but there's still some room there. And I know we're going to be getting a lot of stuff from nine, because it's very much nine themed, going into Dawn Trail. At least that's the impression I get.
Okay.
But I think between all of that, I would like to see some more stuff from seven,
Right.
because I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential there. There's I'm not expecting to see like fucking Sephiroth come down or anything like that. But we could fight Genova, like,
Right. Yeah, we could. We
right?
could.
I'm not. Although I would love to see what Final Fantasy XIV's take on One Winged Angel would be as far as music goes.
Music is. Oh man, yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be good. That'd
that'd
be
be
good.
something. But yeah, I just feel like they have a lot of untapped potential. At least add the fucking Buster Sword. Like, give me the Buster Sword for Dark Knight.
Right. Yeah. No. Agreed. We have the costume. I mean,
Right.
but we
We
don't have the sword.
There's like a sword that looks kind of close in the base game, and it's from one of the
Mhm.
Shadowbringers dungeons, but it's not the same.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like if we could get anything, just give me a Genova fight or something like that, or um add some more like fucking games from the Gold Saucer into our Gold Saucer. Like, make
Right.
Chocobo Racing better. Chocobo Racing is kind of fucked. Like, I'm sure you probably haven't played a lot of it, but I've raced like 1,000 times by this point, and
Dude, you win every race you join. What
I
the heck are
know,
you
but it's
talking?
fucked. It's because I know how to get around the jankiness, and that's really all it
Right.
is. The And it's the same problem that we have with the Fall Guys event right now, is that like the
Mhm.
servers don't update your position often enough to actually tell where
Oh.
you're at. So like it'll look like you're in front of another chocobo or something, but you're actually stuck behind them. So you're stuck on this invisible wall, and you have to like get around them, or like you jump to hit like one of the boxes that gives you a power up, and you
Uh-huh.
went through the box, but it doesn't count. Like,
Right.
you actually had to jump like 5 feet before the box to get to it. It's stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, like you said, jankiness. Right.
Yeah.
Um. Okay. And then we'll get to the FC stuff. So,
Mhm.
so being FC officer, FC lead,
Mhm.
how does that impact your day-to-day login?
Um,
You're not coming in just as a player, right? You're also like you have responsibilities in the
right.
game. So how does that impact your day-to-day login?
It does make me log in more on days when I normally wouldn't have logged in.
Hmm.
There are definitely days where I log in and I'm not really there to play the game. I'm there to just make sure that actions are going, make sure that no one has a problem or anything like that. See how many people are online. See if that's an indicator that I need to try to like boost up my recruiting numbers or like re-engage some sort of like community finder page or like start throwing out invites to people that I see and stuff like that. Um, I
Right.
I look at things from a slightly different perspective. I'm trying to now like the biggest challenge currently, honestly, is activity wise because we've had such a content drought after Endwalker finished
Mm-hmm.
that so many people are taking breaks. Like you're taking a break. There's other people out there that are taking breaks until Dawn Trail
I may
releases.
not come back, just so you know. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
and
on.
so that actually touches on another point I was about to make. Like a lot of these
Right.
people will come back for Dawn Trail, but then other
Uh-huh.
people they've been gone so long that they're not going to think about it. They
Right.
they probably have stopped following the game. It's been a couple years,
Mm-hmm.
and if they think about it, they might come back eventually, or they may never come back. They may be like, you know what, I'm good ending it where it's at. Endwalker was the end of the storyline that I cared about, and maybe I'll pick it up 5 years down the road again or something.
Right.
But there will be people like that. So right now, when there's not a lot that the game is really doing to bring you back, I'm trying to sort of invite more people that are still actively playing to keep the number of people online up so that when
Right.
people are on, they have someone to do something with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's been harder recently than it's ever been in the past.
Right.
I I used to be able to just make the community finder page and it was all like personalized and it had kind of our own flair on it to give them an idea of what our sense of humor was.
Ah.
And I would just throw that up and open it up and then that would be enough. I would just get enough applications through that I wouldn't have to do anything. That
Right.
hasn't been enough lately. There's less activity just in general, so less people check the community finder.
Ah.
So I've been branching out and trying to just like invite people I see in the game. I've been trying to spruce up the community finder page to make it more eye catching. So I had Saren redesign the top banner, and then I added that recruitment video because you can embed videos. And
Okay.
honestly, even this is part of that. Like if they find the YouTube channel and like we're out there on YouTube and someone just stumbles across these videos, maybe they'll be interested. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
But
Shameless plug. Girth Brooks. I'm here all day, every day.
yeah, yeah.
Go on.
Come stare at Girth Brooks. He has a lot to offer.
A lot to offer.
And he'll give it all
All right,
away
go
for
on, go on.
free.
Exactly. No, I'm here all night, baby. Let's go. All right. I mean, go on. Go on.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. I try to keep the numbers up. I try to make sure that everybody's, enjoying themselves and not needing help with anything and not getting it.
Right.
And then from like a different perspective, like having to take care of problems and stuff like that. That doesn't happen super often, but I do have to do that occasionally. We had, that guy that was here for a while, Austin the Tetra, that I had to kick out because he was just an asshole. We've had a few people in the past that have caused problems, and when they cause problems, I don't have a problem removing them. Like that's not an issue. But I have to stay on top of everything. I have to sort of keep my finger on the pulse to see how people are feeling about different people and keep in touch with what's going on. Because if I take like a week off or something, then suddenly I'm out of the loop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you there.
Yeah.
And then we'll actually get to that because I do have some questions about how you kind of approach that sort of situation. So,
Yeah.
but before that, so what made you decide to? Okay, so this will touch on you being the de facto
Yeah.
FC lead, right? You're not officially the FC lead, so which pains me to say, but we've had our discussions about that before and all that. So what made you to decide to take on that role and continue being in that role? Obviously, with your answers to the first question, right, it takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
a lot of personal time to maintain, and like you said, keeping your finger on the pulse, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. So what made you decide to take it on and continue to take it on? Yeah.
So I guess spoiler alert. I didn't want to.
Here we go. Here we go.
So here's the thing.
Right.
So like you said, I'm not the founder of the FC as far as ranks go. Like the Rio's rank is still reserved for founder because he's the one that made it. I am
Right.
the FC lead.
Yes, you are.
I So basically how it came about was Rio for a while was just unemployed, and so that's when he was FC lead, and
Mhm.
he was on like every day basically, and he was running things with people and stuff like that. He got a job in escrow, and it was taking up a lot of his time, and he wasn't online nearly as often as I was, and I had a full-time job too, but it had different hours. And
Right.
so I was online more often with everybody else. I was always helping people out. And eventually he just asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to just run this thing for me?" He's like, "I don't have time anymore. I'm too busy. Like I'm not around as much, and I know I'm not around as much. So you just want to do it?" And I'm like, "Sure." um, so my line of thinking was, and this is gonna go a little bit into like my backstory with gaming and stuff.
Right.
I have run gaming clans before, like actual gaming clans that were in more than one game. And they've ranged from as small as like a clan of like 20 people to as big as a clan of like 200 people with a website and forums and servers and all this stuff.
Right.
After my last experience running a place called Deadly Gaming, which had like 250 members throughout like Battlefield 3 and 4 and like Modern Warfare and all this other stuff with all these teenagers and shit. I decided I didn't want to be in charge ever again after that.
Right.
So I was very much content with just logging in, playing, and going about my day.
Mhm.
When it came down to it, when he asked me, I had a lot of things that ran through my head, and I was thinking about how I really didn't want to be in charge, but at the same time, I was thinking about the alternative like options, and I
Uh-huh.
didn't like those. I'm just
What
like,
what what options were running in your head?
the other people that would have been maybe asked.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Because I thought of the alternatives, and I'm like, I thought about how it would possibly go if it was someone else. And I'm just like, I know I can do it, and I know that like I can trust myself to stay on top of it. And I'm
Right.
like, and I had to ask myself the question, like, if I say no, can I trust these other people to do that? And at the time, that answer was no. And I
Okay.
was like, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it die, basically.
Right.
So at the time that he asked me to like run the FC, I think we had maybe like 64 or 65 members. Um,
Okay.
one
Sizable
of
amount.
A decent amount, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I took over, um, not a lot changed for a little while, but then we had the big World of Warcraft exodus, basically, where they jump ship from WoW to Final Fantasy 14, and all the streamers were
Oh
doing
yeah.
it and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw an opportunity there, and I was like, hey, you know what? Community Finder's a fairly new thing. Let me just make a page. And then we bumped that number up to over 100 through that.
Nice.
And I was happy with that. I was just going to leave it. I was going to leave it at like 150. And honestly, I still would if it wasn't for the fact that, like, I guess I'm kind of getting off track. But with the patch content being kind of in a drought, we bumped that number up to like 250 now, just to keep enough
Right.
people online.
Hmm.
But honestly, if everybody started logging in constantly, it'd be overwhelming at this point. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, basically the short answer is I took it because it was offered to me, even though I didn't really want it, and I just wanted to make sure that what we had here didn't disappear.
Okay. Got it. And Rio, if you're listening, no disrespect meant. I just wanted to take Sin's. I just wanted to get Sin's perspective on it because let's face it, it's kind of a unique position. That's it.
Rio, if you're
Okay.
watching, watch the other ones too. I don't think you've watched any of these yet.
Right. Okay. Okay. So we'll move on to the other question I was talking about earlier.
Hmm.
What is your general approach to conflict resolution? Like you mentioned about the folks that you had to kick out before, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you approach that sort of?
So I've had a lot of years of experience at this point dealing with like conflict in the gaming clans and gaming communities and stuff like that.
Mhm.
In my old days, I just wouldn't put up with it. If someone caused a problem, I'd just tell them like shut the fuck up, and then like that would usually make them mad and they would leave. But nowadays, I'm much more. and I think one of the side effects of me playing this game for the amount of time that I have is that I've kind of become a little bit more understanding of people.
Right.
So, the first thing I do is I try to make sure it's not a misunderstanding. Like, if someone's upset about something, I'm pretty good most of the time about seeing it from multiple perspectives. So, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt unless they've given me reason not to. And be like, oh, you could just be somebody, being socially awkward or something like that. And that's kind of what happened with that Asuna Tetra guy. I'm just going to go back and use him as an example because he, is a good example. When he was first kind of being an asshole, he just kind of came across as a little bit snobbish, like kind of like he liked to talk like he knew a lot of things, and he came off as a little dismissive, but it could have just been like the way that he talked.
Right.
But as it became like more and more obvious that he was actually just being dismissive and he just didn't value anybody else's opinion besides his own, and he was basically calling them idiots, then it became a problem.
Okay.
So first step is making sure it's not a misunderstanding and it's not just like a weird social awkwardness thing. Second step is if it's a repeated problem, I'll usually give them some sort of warning, like, hey, just so you know, you can't be talking like this. You can't be doing this thing. Like, I put up with a lot, but I'm not going to put up with you making it a bad time for everybody else around you. Like, if it comes to everybody else enjoying their time or you enjoying your time only if you get to act this way, I'm going to choose everybody else. Okay. Like, there's no getting around that, as long as they're in the wrong. Like, if they keep it up after that, I don't really give another warning. I'm just like, all right, you've been warned. I'm going to remove you now. Like, yeah. So, because like sometimes people are understanding. Like, I've talked to, and I'm sure she probably won't mind me saying this. Hopefully not. Anyway, Icy. I talked to Icy before, and we had a talk. We did like the ultimate raids, and she was getting kind of snippy with Saren during the raids, and they were kind of arguing back and forth, and so and she kind of blew up, and so I took Icy aside. I'm like, hey, just so you know, and that was like the second time that happened. I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, you got kind of snippy today, and this isn't the first time. I'll say if this was the first time, I just would have let it go. This is the second time this has happened. So, this can't keep happening. I said, if this is going to be a repeated issue, I'm going to have to do something, and the something is going to be removing you because that's going to be my only option. Like, I can't make you get along with people. You can get along with people, or you don't get along with people, and then I make it someone else's problem. Like. I said it in a very like that's like my Cliff Notes version. I said it a lot nicer than that. I'm usually pretty nice about it, and if Icy hears this, I meant it the way that I said it to you. I meant it in the nicer version. I'm just trying to shorten this, but ever since we had that talk, Icy hasn't blown up being anybody else, and that's fine. Like. You can have a bad day. You can have a bad week. You can have a bad month. I get it. It's happened to me. But if it's just like an actual like attitude person problem, I can't fix that. I'm not here to be like a therapist. I'm not going to fix your... I'm not going to fix whatever issues you have deep down. I'll talk to you about issues if you want to talk about issues. But if you're not working on them and you're causing an issue for everybody else, I'm going to have to remove you until you fix yourself.
Okay. I am tempted to dive deeper since I'm thinking of other former FC members, but I'm not going there. This is not the place for it. Yeah. Okay, moving on.
I mean,
no. All right. What is the most challenging issue you've had to resolve with the FC? Anything that comes to mind? I mean, other than the IC situation, like, I don't. That didn't sound like it was too challenging.
No, it wasn't. It was very simple. IC was very understanding. She already knew that she messed up. It was really simple.
Okay. You have any thoughts come to mind with that question? Most challenging or anything really?
Yeah. There's a couple of situations that come to mind. There was one that involved one of our members that's still in the FC but hasn't logged in for a really long time. Who that person didn't do anything wrong, but there were two other people that were a couple, and you might know who I'm talking about, judging by the way you're reacting. And it's not the ones that were raiding with us. It's not those.
Okay.
but there's this couple that like all they basically did was log into the game, go to the like nightclubs and the RP venues and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So this person was an officer, by the way, that they tried to do this to. So they got into a fight because the officer was hanging out with one of them and just like talking to them like a normal person, you know, normal
Mm-hmm.
social interaction, not dating or e-dating or flirting or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that girl's partner got super jealous of the fact that they
Oof.
were hanging out and they were talking to other FC members, and I got some messages forwarded to me in Discord where they basically threatened to like kill the officer. Um,
Wow.
they were very unhinged. And so like
Wow.
I had to immediately remove them from the FC. I didn't even talk to them about it first, other than like saying like, "Hey, you've made threats towards another person in the FC. I don't care what the reason is. You're out." And
Right.
so I did that. I sent proof to the girl that was involved, the partner, because she was
Mm-hmm.
also in the FC. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, hey, just so you know, I removed them for this. These are the messages that they sent. I'm not here to like interfere with your personal life. I'm not here about that. I'm like, I just want you to know this is what they said. This is the proof that was sent to me, and I blanked out the names and stuff like that, so that
Right.
you know, just in case. And then I also forwarded it to the officer, and I'm like, hey man, it's been a while since we talked, but you know, and this ain't none of my business. You know, what you do on your off time is whatever. Like, I don't care about
Mm-hmm.
your personal relationships, if this is or isn't a dating thing, but you know, this is what I've got. This is the threats that were made towards you. I realize that nothing will probably happen, but just in case, I've reported this to Discord because the messages came through Discord. I've kicked them out of the
Okay.
FC. They're not to be allowed back in. They're on like my watch list, basically. Like, um, and then it turns out that like the girl involved in that was also kind of her own special version of crazy, because she like flipped out like a week and a half later and called everybody that played this game a degenerate in some form or another, and then left the FC and then ended up still playing the game and going to clubs later. It didn't make any sense. Uh, that
Okay, now I
was
definitely know who this is. Right, right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. Bad part is they were actually included in our banner picture for a while, and that's one of the reasons why I had to change it. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, there was that
Uh,
situation. There was a situation where one of our there's another situation where someone threatened to kill another one of our FC members, and they just got immediately kicked out by
okay.
me because they were already annoying. But that was just like the thing that pushed me over the edge. Then there was another one where another couple was basically given members grief over their DPS numbers during like savage raids, and we had to remove them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sin, stop playing this degenerate game. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'm not making the best case for myself hanging out in front of Girth Brooks and
Right, right,
his
right.
fishnets and his cowboy boots and his cowboy hat and his little speedo with his little
You
bulge
gotta
there.
you gotta send me a picture with Griff Brooks.
You should know it's exactly how you dress. I don't understand.
Oh God. This is how I rated back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, um, have you sent out a an FC Ninja invite? And by Ninja invite, I mean, no intro, no nothing. You just invited a person just because of one reason or another.
Yeah, I have. I didn't used to. Um,
Hmm.
I I started initially doing it just by hanging out in like Redania and places, and if someone passed by
Right.
me with a funny name that didn't have an FC, I would just send them an invite. and, and if they joined, I'm like, yes. And I'd thank
Yes.
them for joining because they had a funny ass name.
Do any names come to mind? Do you remember any of those
Safe
names?
Sex was one of them. Uh,
I remember that. I think I remember that
yeah,
guy.
Safe Sex. It was SAFESEKZ, and he kept that name
Right.
for a solid year before Square Enix caught on and made him change.
Before he got, yeah, he was forced by
Yeah, he
Squeenix
was
to
forced
change it.
into a
Yeah, yeah, I
name change,
remember.
and it was a very
Right,
sad
right, right.
day. Um, there was Sloppy Jocelyn, uh,
Nice.
who eventually made a alt character called Sloppy Seconds.
I admire the commitment. I
Yeah,
admire the
yeah.
commitment to the sloppiness. All right.
Yeah, and other ones aren't as funny. Other ones were just like things like, "Hey, I like that thing." Like there was one called Rambo Stallone that I invited and was part of the
Right.
FC for a while. That just never logged back in, and
Okay.
just stuff that caught my attention, basically.
All right.
Yeah,
And do you have any advice for future FC leaders? The aspiring ones out there.
yeah. Don't make your own FC. Just join mine.
That's what I thought. I was expecting that one.
But no, if that's something that you want to do, just understand a couple of things. One is that starting out is extremely hard.
Hmm.
It is you have to rank up with your grand company technically, and to get like to be able to have two different buffs going at the same time and have all the company chest tabs and all that stuff. That's not a huge deal. But
Right.
finding people that want to join an FC that has like 3 people in it is pretty rough. And if you do find someone that's going to, chances are they're a sprout and they don't know any better yet. That may or may not still be playing the game in a week. So
Right.
the best way to do it would be to start off with a solid foundation. Have like 6 or 7 people that you know that you've partied up with or something that are willing to start together and like be willing to all put in the effort at the same time to recruit.
Hmm.
Because once you boost the numbers up, once you've got like 30 people, people are more open to joining you. But
Okay.
very few people want to be in an FC where it's just like 10 people and you see one person online when you log in.
Okay.
Other than that, obviously set up a Discord for yourself, have some way to communicate outside of the game. Community Finder is your best friend still when you're getting started. The amount of people that I got through Community Finder is a lot higher than I thought I would when I started it.
Okay. Right.
Other than that, try not to take yourself too seriously. Having a good sense of humor and an open mind is pretty essential. If you're an FC leader that constantly loses their temper or has to have things a certain way, or has like requirements of like, oh, you have to have DPS numbers this high to join, no one's going to want to be a part of that. Like, and if you do find people that are going to be a part of that, you're not going to get along with them for very long. Like,
What are you talking about? I'm always number one in my server.
I don't know why I can't beat this training dummy that they have out here. My rotation is perfect.
All right. Okay.
I have heard tales of people that actually charge their members to be in the FC each week. They'll charge like 100,000 gil a week or something. Don't do that.
Wow.
That's an asshole move. Have money already. If you want to like take donations from FC members, that's fine. If they want to donate, that's one thing. Don't make them. That's an asshole move. Don't be that guy.
Sin, I'm sorry, but you have no right to give financial advice considering you gave your wife away for free in the game. I'm sorry.
Look, once you get past a certain amount of gil in the game, it doesn't really have any purpose anymore.
Oh, there you go. Rich guy talk.
Look,
So you
I
rich.
I made enough money in the game that I basically donated most of the gil that went towards buying the large FC house, and I still have like 70 mil left over. Like,
There you go.
I'm good,
There you go.
and I have my own house. I'm putting in house bids. Like,
Is the FC house still in the same location?
yeah, it's still on the top in Shiro there.
Alright.
It's not my favorite location, but it's the spot that was available, and it's on top of the hill. Other people like it, so I'll probably just keep it there.
Dude, it's looking down on the plebes below. I mean, we can't.
We keep losing our neighbor. Our neighbor in front of our house keeps going away.
All right. Okay. So, last, moving on to the final questions. What keeps you going? I mean, you did say that you've been, you stopped playing for about 3 to 4 months, right? But and then since then you've played the game nonstop. So, what keeps you going? What keeps you coming back? You said it yourself. There's a content drought and all that, but you're still here. What keeps you going?
At this point, it's just the people. I if I wasn't in charge and if it wasn't like all these people that I've known for a long time playing the game, I probably wouldn't be logging in right now either, to be honest. It's the point where I've kind of run out of stuff to do in the game.
Right.
I could still level up Blue Mage. I still haven't got that to 80. That's about the only thing I have left. I could do like Baldessian's Arsenal. I still haven't done that. There's some Savage fights and stuff I haven't done, but I also don't feel like torturing myself going through Party Finder. So
Says the guy who does Eureka.
yeah, but that I don't have to rely on other people for that. I can just do it myself.
Right,
Also, you know, there's a reason I have so much money, and Eureka's part of it.
right. I remember that. Right.
But yeah, it's honestly just the people. It's keeping the place going. It's enjoying talking to the people that I get to talk to. And it's that I know now. It's that I know something new is coming around the corner, and I want to be ready for it. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And I still just really like the game, even if I'm not actively doing something. The environment is nice. I like there's favorite spots I have. Like there's a spot in my own residential area in Lavender Beds I like to hang out at just because it's peaceful. It helps me de-stress, basically.
Not right. I agree with that. Even though I prefer the beach in Limsa, but yeah, to each his own. You're right.
Right.
Okay, that's basically it. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for answering the questions. Rest in peace to the old Russian who interviewed you, who got drafted.
It was definitely not just me doing a voice. No,
definitely not you. No. All right, that's it for now. Girth Brooks signing out.
Stay girthy, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. See you later.